This is season number 19 of Bass Talk Live with Matt Pengraff. BTL is presented by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, APCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries. Hit them with the hook, Jeffries.
BTL coming at you.
Good afternoon, and we have our first breaking news show of the 2023 season. One of the things moving the BTL studio to Shawnee, Oklahoma was when things happen in the world of professional bass fishing, we can bring it to you as it happens. And if you know, over the past 4 or 5 years, well, longer than that, we used to have, we need to get him back on in 2023. The West Coast Czar has come on, and a big affinity for West Coast anglers. A lot of stuff going on. We had Ken Mah on last year to talk about everything that was going on the West Coast. And we got 3 guys right now that are on the West Coast with breaking news. We have apex angler Ken Mah and Jeremy DeHart from the Wild West Bass Trail and the Apex Tour. And guys, big stuff happening on the West Coast. Thanks for joining on a special breaking news edition of BTL. I know, Ken, you have to be excited. This is an angler. Jeremy, a lot of work went into what you guys just came out with today.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's a long time in the making, right? Because fishing as an angler and hoping that something like this would come to fruition, to give the anglers, something, viable to fish for. So, I think people want to know and hear more from Jeremy about the long journey to get here and just everything that's going to go into this. It's not a fishing tournament, just to go into this entire outdoor expo and inviting family, friends, fans, and hold the whole outdoor industry to the Sacramento region.
All right. That was a good tease, Ken. Jeremy, what are the fans going to get to see in April of this upcoming year? Make the announcement on BTL. What do we have going on the West Coast? It's first time ever this has ever happened in the history of the sport.
It's pretty exciting. We've had great examples of this type of environment and show over the course of the years and years of bass fishing competitively with Bassmaster and then also with Ridgecrest, and then also we have the help with Rick Pierce and all that he has brought to the table and helping design and build the Western Bass Shootout, of which we are announcing today. There's still lots of parts and pieces that we're plugging in place, but the excitement is we have qualified 50 anglers from various organizations collectively in the West Coast. The top 50 anglers that we feel, and we're pretty excited about that. It's quite a list. There's some hammers on that list. There is a great excitement building. It's been kind of down in the hush hush for some time, but after meetings and communication with municipalities and the community involvement that we have, we've got great resources from MLF on the Toyota Series, Billy Egan with the Juan Bass Series. We've got our anglers from Apex Pro Tour, and then our pro anglers from the Wild West Pro-Am Series. So with all of those combined with the efforts of our sponsors and other sponsors that are coming on board for this show as well. And then Randy Pringle, who's a seasoned tournament director with Best Bass Tournament Series in California as the tournament director. So we're pretty excited. We've kind of just brought everything together with Rick Pierce's help and guidance in doing so. And hopefully we can get him on next time.
All right. So what you guys are announcing is It is the biggest bass tournament that the West Coast has ever seen. You are combining the 4 biggest trails on the West Coast by taking the top 20 of the Apex Tour anglers, the top 10 of the WON Bass Tour anglers, the top 10 of the MLF Toyota Series Western Division anglers, and the top 10 of the Wild West Bass Team Trail anglers. 50 anglers invited. One tournament with a $200,000 payout and $100,000 first place, in conjunction with a massive outdoor show in Sacramento, California, April 13th through 16th. Is that what is happening here, Ken and Jeremy?
That is pretty stout right there. Yeah, off the launch website for sure.
I mean, Panger, you couldn't have said it anymore. I actually, I listening to Jeremy and listening to you make the announcement, I get goosebumps, right? Because you look at, like Billy Egan, I got to give him a lot of credit, with WON Bass and what he's built over there. And, Kathy Fennell, Alan Gray over at the Toyota Series, just putting this group, and I know we're going to get to it, but putting this group of anglers, inviting this caliber of angler across basically a unified front in our entire region, like I'm gonna start name dropping here. You got guys like Joe Uribe, Scott Hellison won the AOI for the Apex Tour. Randy McAbee, he's won like 12 or 13 championship in boats out here. Nick Salvucci, he's won everything. Myself, Justin Kerr. Justin Kerr won 2 majors last year with WON Bass. And you go on, David Valdivia, he's won AOIs at MLF.
Ish.
Ish is on that list.
Jake Boomer.
Right. He just came off of the MPFL tour. Kyle Grover's won an AOI at MLF.
Todd Klein.
And Todd Klein was the AOI at WON Bass, and he
this
qualified.
Is big.
No, and he's qualified on both sides, actually, because he was the AOI at WON Bass, and he qualified on the Toyota Series as well.
So you guys figured out, and Jeremy, this is probably more a question directed to you because you run the Apex Tour and Wild West, correct?
That's correct.
For those who don't know, if you go back to the show I did with Ken on BTL last year, Ken really broke down the different dynamics between WON Bass, MLF, Wild West that's all going on the West Coast. Individual for-profit organizations that are providing a service to top-tier anglers like Ken out on the West Coast. But this sounds like you were able to get everybody in a room together, and while you were all 3 independent entities that are all pulling for angler support and tournaments, you were able to come together for this one event to invite the top anglers from each tour into one event and an outdoor expo. That had to be quite a task.
Yeah, and it was really orchestrated and assisted by Rick Pierce over at Bass Cat Boats, who's sponsors both the WON Bass series and our series. To bring his expertise in this industry, as well as the connections that he has to make this work. And it's pretty exciting that we have a seasoned individual like with what Rick brings to the table, the knowledge that he brings to help us put this together. And this has been a mission that we've all had. It's been pretty exciting to put it on paper and see it. Now we can see it on the water, and that's going to be exciting. We hope everybody comes out. We want to have that foot traffic at the show. We have a lot of things that are coming up that'll be exciting for family participation, so on and so forth as this comes together.
All right, we'll dive into that. I do have a quote from Rick Pierce that is on the westernbassshootout.com website. Rick, president of Bass Cat Boats, says, "We are pleased to see the mission come together. Offering Western anglers a true championship has been the goal, gathering all the major higher entry and high participation organizations. We welcome these high-profile fishing companies and enthusiasts to embrace them all together. We can continue to grow the fishing on the West Coast." That is none other than the one and only Rick Pierce, who has put a lot of cats out on the West Coast through Wild West, through WON Bass over the last couple of years. Ken, as an angler, you're one of the guys who no doubt can compete across the country. You have chosen to stay mainly on the West Coast. A lot of your guys that you beat on a regular basis have gone national. Is this something that has been needed on the West Coast for a long time, particularly with the lack of West Coast with Bassmaster coming out there and how difficult it is to make those 30-40 hour travels? You've got to be jacked about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Other than the U.S. Open, right, where again, it's a shared weight. The U.S. Open's a shared weight format. Other than that, we really had nothing annually. Because this thing is going to be an annual thing moving forward, to fish like this. And then as a competitor, I want to fish against the best anglers every day, day in and day out. That's what drives me. And when you win this event in April, there's not going to be any, oh yeah, but David Valdivia wasn't there. Oh well, Joe Uribe wasn't there. Oh, Nick Salvucci wasn't there. There's going to be none of that, right? The top 50 anglers earned their way by fishing in the 2022 season. There were no invites, there were no backdoor deals. It was basically, if you were 10th in points or higher, they did work down because of double qualifiers. As a competitor, that's what lights my fire. Like, you can only win the first one once, and you can only beat this group of anglers one time a year, right? Because it's just like bass and BBT, right? They have so many great anglers, but they've never come together and fished one event. Mm-hmm. To truly see, how you stack up. That's what gets my competitive juices flowing.
Sacramento River, California Delta, one of the most iconic fisheries on the West Coast. Is this a classic style event where it will always be held annually on this fishery? Is this thing going to bounce around?
Well, as we started this, that is the central hub for all fishing pretty much on the West Coast. It's very economically driven with boat sales and our tackle shops and so on and so forth that we have here. So that's where it'll start, probably for the first few years, and then we'll see how that goes from there and venture out. That's Rick's vision. That's what we've began to put together, and looking forward to that, because it builds stability within that area. And all of our anglers at this point in time, they've had to get through the Delta somehow to get here.
Outdoor Expo. I mean, I've been to Red Crest. I've been to the Classic. Is it going to be that type of feel for those people that want to come out and experience this while the tournament's going on?
That is correct. That is, we're working with the communities locally there to make that happen. We had meetings in previous months and up into recent time where logistics, all of those things combined to get that dialed in. And so, yes, it will be that. It will be a drive-through showcase event with the stage presence, bands, the whole works. It's the show.
Yeah, Matt, and I just want to add on, Matt. I just, as an angler, to have 100,000 square foot trade show, where all these corporate entities, endorsers, sponsors, and companies and local companies are going to come to, it's going to be a very kind of a carnival fairish type of environment, that the greater Sacramento area, the Bay Area, and people hopefully from a few hundred miles away will travel and come to. And look, outside of the FLW National Guard series, I remember when I fished those and made a couple of top tens, we used to weigh in at the parking lot at Walmart's.
Yeah.
And dude, that was a big deal back then. I remember going to the Antioch Walmart out of the Delta, and there'd be 2,000 people in the parking lot. That's the draw. And I don't care, man. I don't, some people say, oh, I just want to fish. I just want to fish. Dude, when you pull up with your boat and your truck and you're getting to weigh in the last day and there's 2,000 people watching you, I know back there, the Classic, there's, 20, 30,000. And my hope is that, it's a building, obviously. It's our first year to do it this coming up year or this year. But gosh, if we could get 6, 8, 10,000 people, to sit in an arena where, the top 50 anglers get to then have a platform to build their brand, right? I mean, those eyes, that television show, that community is going to see my truck wrap, my boat wrap, myself. We're going to be live everywhere. To have that type of platform here, you guys have that back there. But for us to have that platform, these anglers can really use that platform to better their either endorsements, their career, their exposure. And then it's going to be exposed to a whole different segment of people, right? Because you're going to have the moms and the dads and, bringing their kids out that know nothing about fishing. And, they're going to bump into a Jordan McCullum, who's young and energetic. And they're going to be like, I want to be him. I want to be Luke Jones, right? I want to be Jordan McCullum. I want to be the next Brian Smith. That's what's exciting about me on the business side of things.
That's good stuff. Question then for a guy in Oklahoma, a guy on the East Coast, guy up north who wants to follow this streaming, television coverage, website coverage. How are we going to be able to consume this?
There'll be many various streaming opportunities. Will also be television coverage on the Pursuit channel, as we've always been partnered with them. We'll also have connections, some additional Fox Sports West, and so on. So there'll be additional exposure and coverage beyond what Apex is currently right now, but many different streaming locations throughout our industry.
Okay. And then the next question that I have is, there are several different formats to qualify for this tour. We've been through the Apex Pro Tour format. Ken's done a great job of explaining that on air. One Bass, you have some shared weight stuff that's into this. You have some individual, some very traditional, like the MLF Toyota series. How many, how big, and how are we weighing in and determine the I guess the inaugural Western Bass Shootout champion? Nice
question.
Yeah, well, this to start, so everybody's familiar with it, be able to track it. We're enhancing a lot of the social media drive. The format will basically be more traditional with a top 10 weigh-in on the third day. We will have some aspects of Apex in there, but mostly on the traditional level to everybody's comfort level.
Okay. $2,000 entry fee?
Yes.
All right. So that's kind of non-traditional, a tournament entry fee to a championship event, but it is 100% payback.
100% plus with the boat and additional cash and prizes. So,
okay. Yeah. Have you announced how far you're going to pay down that field? Is it going to be all 50, or is there going to be actually a check line?
It'll be most likely paid half.
Okay. That's pretty strong. That's pretty strong. Is this a thing that you're trying to establish this for 10, 15, 20 years into the future? This is something that is not, we're going to try it. I mean, it seems as long as it's been in talks and bringing all three together that this is going to be, and I don't want to use that term, but it's the only thing that comes to mind, the Bassmaster Classic of the West.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a fair assessment. Is that a fair assessment of that, Jeremy?
It will be. We can be compared to that. I mean, you said it, not me.
That's big shoes to fill, but yes, for sure. I mean, that's the West Coast really has never had anything like this, and it builds the strength of our sport and industry in the West Coast. It brings organizations together rather than pull them apart. We have a common goal to make sure that we show to others. I mean, this is only going to build our sponsor level. One Bass and others to get more involved. It's about building the business side. So whatever we can do for that, well, again, back to Rick's vision with those things as well, it plays a key component. This is what works. This is what we need to establish and implement moving forward.
It's been too much work, Matt.
It sounds like a lot of work, because I'd heard kind of rumblings of something different. But then when you called me about this, 24 hours ago, I was like, wait, this is happening in April. I was like, let's do this.
Yeah. I mean, it's just been, it's so much to lift. I made the comment to Jeremy before we got on the show, like when Gary Dobbins lifted Wild West Bass Trail, that, I mean, for what it took, and Matt Morgan and some others, but what it took to lift that here. And now, we're in our 8th year. They're drawing great numbers for for a points chasing title. It draws anywhere from 120 to 160 anglers annually for the past 8 years. And then, like I said, what Egan has built, and I believe what, Alan Gray is going to resurrect the Toyota series. They just need to give him an opportunity to do that. I'm going to fish that whole thing this year. But my point is that, when you put that type of work in, and, as much, blood, sweat, tears, and frustration, I know that Jeremy and the few conversations, when they kind of held information back, but I could tell, you could tell in somebody's eyes how hard they're working to do something. And this thing, could have, should have been launched 9 months ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago. And it just takes so much, especially when you're dealing with a city like Sacramento or any city, to really hammer down all those details.
I will say it's really cool. The U.S. Open, as someone from the middle part of the U.S. Open will always be the U.S. Open. But the key in the U.S. Open, I'm not trying to take anything away from that. It is the U.S. Open. Anybody can sign up for it. This is a high-end qualifying event for the best of the best on the West Coast. I don't think it's fair to compare that to the U.S. Open at all.
Right.
Like, it's a completely different vibe, different group of anglers.
Yeah, and then the shared weight and co-anglers, or any angler, even a non-shared weight, the co-anglers impact the outcome. Because if a co-angler's back there, throwing a different color worm than the pro, and the pro adjusts and ends up winning over 3 days, the co-angler influenced that. With Apex and with the Western Bass Shootout, there are no co-anglers. It's that one angler, like similar to the Classic, and that angler has to go out and prepare and execute over a course of 3 days.
Yeah. Jeremy, it's no secret that the West Coast has struggled to fill fields, big fields. And some of the organizations point to that as to why the Western Opens, but the Toyota series has been pretty strong out there. Is it your hope as a tournament director, organizer of this, that this draws more people in and more people fish one of these 4 circuits in an attempt to get to this event with the payout at the end of the year kind of moving forward?
Oh, most definitely. We saw the results of that in various ways in conversations throughout the year this year. Guys were just talking about, hey, a Western Bass Shootout, because this was announced with Mike Iaconelli, Rick Pierce, and myself there in Vegas about a year or so ago.
Yep.
And that was a drive. And, it's interesting. We have a lot of anglers in the West Coast, and this is really going to bring them all together, that as we've talked about. But our crossover rate, and Ken can allude to this in conversation, we all have different customer bases. It's probably about 6 to 10% of actually those that fish our events versus Juan Bass and Billy's events or MLF's events. I mean, there's that 6 to 10% range, maybe a little bit more on MLF side that actually draw. So we all are bringing our own anglers into this, and hopefully it fuels and builds for everybody. It's about building our sport and industry in the West Coast, which has always struggled.
Yeah, and I to piggyback, Matt, I know for sure that it's made an impact because I talk to a lot of anglers across the different leagues, and like I said, guys like I've talked to Todd Klein, Jordan McCollum, Randy Pearson, former Elite Series pro. He made the list on the Toyota side. I seen him right there at 10th, but I know that those anglers, even at the last Toyota, they were asking me about the Western Bass Shootout then. So it's on their minds. It's on the anglers' minds, and I think that the Western angler is a very non-trusting angler. And not me, but they'd like to complain about a lot of stuff, which hurts the industry. But I can say that now that it has been announced, of course it has to be executed. But exactly what you said, right? Like, for now, there's a an entry fee, okay. But where can you go? This is what I would say to you. Where can you go that you're going to pay a $2,000 entry fee. You're only going to fish against 50 people. First place is $100K, and half the field is going to get paid. When you combine the 50 times 2,000 is 100,000. They're paying out 200,000, right? So it's a 200+%, nearly a 200+% payout, and you get the platform to sell your brand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, you don't get that. You're not going to have that. You're not going to have those types of opportunities to build the type of impressions that a marquee event like this will build. Like I said, right now it's all talk until it happens. But I would say Jeremy wouldn't be on your show, the freaking highest downloaded podcast show in the nation, telling people it's going to happen, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, once again, that's April 13th through 16th, the Western Bass Shootout, bringing together all of the prominent leagues and organizations on the West Coast for a winner take all. I guess it's a bragging rights deal too. I mean, that's just to get there is hard, but to win that, Ken, you've got a lot of hardware recently. I expect you to be right in the thick of this thing. I know that you would like this inaugural trophy on your mantle in April.
God. It would be, like I said, for me, I mean, winning any 3-day event anywhere in the country is an accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
But to win against these 49 other anglers, that's what's special.
Yeah. And I think, with the options that are out there, it's going to make people fish an entire series more instead of just cherry pick one or two. So it's going to benefit all of the organizations too. I mean, instead of just jumping in one Toyota, I think you're going to see a fuller field deeper in for the guys who have the chance for the 10. You could do the same thing with the Wild West. I mean, the Apex guys are kind of in there as a whole, but you'll see more people fish that one bass series all the way through all of that, trying to stay in that top 10 there. So I think all around it's a great deal, and something that I'm always excited to see more stuff from the West Coast. I always like going out there. It's been a minute.
Yeah. Like One Bass, primarily they do 3 events outside of California.
Yep.
Right. And they do a great job drawing that kind of Arizona, Nevada, and that SoCal group of anglers, where Wild West, doesn't do a great job drawing that SoCal. We have a good Arizona following, but we don't do a good job of drawing that SoCal angler, other than Ricky Shabazz and a couple of others. So to really geographically, put this together, like you can drive 6 hours and I guess maybe go across 2 or 3 states.
Yeah.
I can drive 6 hours and I won't even be in LA with traffic.
That sounds exciting.
I mean, but that puts in perspective, right? Somebody that lives in Shasta, it'd take them 8 or 10 hours just to drive to LA.
That's good stuff. So, anything else that we missed here? I know, Jeremy, I've heard your phone buzzing. I know that, like I said, you've been working on this for a long time, but it just went live today.
Yeah.
The website went live, westernbassshootout.com. So that's it's Western BASSSHOOTOUT.com. It's got all the information, the anglers that are on there. I'm sure more dates, locations, details on that expo will be on that website as it comes out.
Yeah, that's right. We'll have more updates probably within every 2 to 3 days with this building up. It'll be in angler profiles, interviews, commercials, the whole marketing and media campaign going forward from this point.
Jeremy, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. Ken, thanks for jumping on. I know you're dialed in. I mean, it's 3 months away.
Yeah, quick.
I'm excited. I'm excited it's actually happening.
All right, guys. Thanks for jumping on BTL's breaking news. That was good friend Ken Mah and Jeremy DeHart from guy kind of put together the Western Bass Shootout. So I don't see a negative in this. I think it's cool. like I said, I had heard about it and then kind of forgot about it. And then you hear a little bit of rumblings on it, but anything for the West Coast anglers to have their championship, to be able to maximize their brands and what they bring to the table is good. And proof that you can take 3 competing organizations and work together for the good of everybody. Never thought we'd see that happen in anything, but here we are. Western Bass Shootout, April 13th through 16th, California Delta. And thanks for jumping on for viewers and listeners for the BTL breaking news. This will go out on the podcast, available on the replay too. But BTL will return to its regularly scheduled programming. Hey, we're going West Coast tomorrow. We got another West Coast guy, Brett Height, talking about the old school FLW days and the team deals, Dunkin' Donuts, National Guard, Coppertone, and Imodium AD. It's going to be a good show tomorrow. So this has been Breaking News with BTL, everybody. Thanks for jumping on. We'll see you tomorrow.